uses just about anything to create art and make a living. Known on social media as the coffee artist, he has managed to make a name for himself and recently built himself a new art studio in Sasolburg, Free State.
Ennock, thank you very much for making time to talk to us on Morning Live. My first question would be, how would you narrate your story? Who is Ennock Mlangeni?
Ennock Mlangeni is a guy I was born here in Sasolburg, and my story, it's a bit sad, but I believe it's inspirational to others. I lost my parents when I was very young. My dad when I was 6, and my mother when I was 7. And I had to move in to stay with my grandmother, who raised me up to this date, my superwoman. So I'm someone who believes in God, and I believe in myself, and I believe that I can do more and I can reach more. But it was difficult when you grew up, because it was hard, because we were about 12 in the house and there was no one working, so we all depended on my grandmother's pension. And that's why I'm saying she's my superwoman, because somehow you get to ask yourself, how do they do it?
I understand that you're a self-taught visual artist. What sparked your interest in this career? Why did you choose to follow this path?
For me, art started as a hobby, because I think I was in around grade 5, grade 6 when I started doing drawing comic characters, and I think that's when the passion and love for art grew in me, and I kept on producing, but it was difficult because I used to struggle a lot with material. So art is not like any other talent that you can practice without any material. So you always need something to create it. So it was quite challenging. And I think when I was it was grade 10, I started entering competitions, and there was this one that we call Sasol Techno X competition, a science and maths art competition. So for me, one of the teachers asked me to enter the competition, because somehow she saw that I was really talented, and that's when I started entering competition, and I won from grade 10, 11, 12. And for me, I think that sparked something in me to say, you are really good at this, and it's something that you can take serious.
I know I first saw your work on the social media, of course, and so I would ask, what role did that play in making Ennock the artist?
I remember the first piece that blew up in the internet, I think it was 2017, when I did the late Mama Winnie piece with pen. I posted it on, I was not quite popular on Twitter. I was more on Facebook, so I posted it on Facebook. Then the Minister of Education posted it on Twitter. So people were like, go and check Twitter. I was like, I think I had about 9 followers because I was not even active. And I think from then, that's when I saw the power of social media. And up to this day, everything that I've achieved via social media. Every sale I make via social media. So from then, that's the first piece that blew off Mama Winnie. And that's when people started, there's Ennock. I remember it was on Trending SA2 that they started talking about it. And that's when people get, there was this guy. Then the other piece that made a huge impact is the one that I did. I created the portrait of black coffee using coffee. Yeah.
You just mentioned now the black coffee piece, and I remember that was made from coffee granules.
Yes.
And I've seen some, Mama Winnie, it was from paint. So what is your trademark? Do you use coffee granules, paint, or pen?
I'm very versatile. Like I mentioned earlier, the fact that I struggled with materials when I studied art. So I learned each and every technique, I can use anything. paint, give me anything, I can create art. So I can't say I specialize in this or I work with everything. And even the pieces that were exhibited in my previous solo exhibition, like I had pieces whereby one piece had pen, coffee, charcoal, you see, like, hence I say I reflect the things that I went through and those challenges, like I put them on that piece.
Okay, let's talk about your solo exhibition in Berlin that happened earlier this year. How did they get to know of Ennock?
After the Mama Winnie piece, after it blew up, people started having interest on who is Ennock. And I remember I received an email in 2017. So they were seeking people who wanted to donate art pieces for charity. So I was like, okay, I'm interested. I'm interested in giving one of my pieces. And actually that's when the person who bought Danny was attending the auction. So he fell in love with my piece. So after he bought it, he came, he wanted my details, then contacted me. And I think he bought about 10 pieces after that. Then later on, I think it was 2019, early 2019, no, later 2019, because the exhibition was later 2019. He came back to me and said, you know what, I've never done this before, because normally they display huge artists, they like who are already established and who have been in the art industry for years. So he said, I really love your work. How about we have a solo exhibition with you? And I said, okay, I've never done a solo exhibition before. And I said, okay, I'm up for it. And the rest was history.
Okay, as a self-taught artist, how would you say you keep improving and bettering your work?
I always say to myself that I must always have a room for development. I must never reach a level where I say, now I'm in the top, I know everything. Because I believe art industry changes daily. And somehow in our work we have to do things people can communicate with, people can relate with, even people who are young, our stories should reflect and people should be able, when you translate the messages through our words, people should be able to connect with it. So my pieces, I always put that in mind, that every day you must learn something new. Every day you must communicate with the people.
And is that one of the reasons why you're educating children here in Sasolburg on art and the creative space?
What inspired that is actually what I went through. Because I know how hard it is when you have a talent but you can't exercise it because you lack, there is no facility that caters for you. You don't have material. So it's something that inspired me to create that opportunity that I never had for others.
You mentioned Black Coffee's art and Mamuini, but which would you say put you on the map for South Africans? Because my favorite one, I'd say it's Connie Ferguson's one. I saw that one and
yes,
that stood out for me. Of all the art pieces that you've done, which would you say stood out for you?
It's hard to say that, because for me, Mama Winnie piece was more of like introduction of this guy nobody knew about. Then the Black Coffee piece, I was like, okay, now this guy is talented, because I did something different, and came the Connie Ferguson piece, and it also blew because I remember I did it after I did the Miss Universe piece, so. She also, I wasn't expecting her to but she was like, man, you're talented. Can I please have those pieces, She even bought a very huge piece, so it was like, okay.
And where would you say you are in the art industry? How are you navigating through the visual art?
For me, I believe I'm still starting now. This is the beginning of my journey. And even my first solo exhibition, I titled it the butterfly finds its wings. Inspired by actually that okay, now Ennock is growing up. Now Ennock, like I'm introducing myself in the industry. And I believe from here is to now go higher and aim higher. Of course, we all want to be the next Nelson Makamos.
And the vision for your work and going forward, where do you see yourself?
My dream, my biggest dream, is to own an art academy. That's one of the reasons that I believe we all are here to do something and leave something. And that's one thing that I've always wanted. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind. And that's why I started with these classes. So studying here with the classes, then grow this dream.